I want to talk about fast crew supply vessels because recently there's been increased interest in these vessels. They are commercial vessels and they are being converted as yacht support vessels and standalone expedition yachts. And in particular, Dahmen has been doing a brilliant job in promoting these sort of wedge-shaped fast crew supply vessels. And they've been building these for about 20 years, but they brought one to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show a couple of years ago, and it created a big stir, and everybody got all excited. This one here is in a little video being offered for $13.9 million converted. And there it is, got a big crane, it's got some toys. It virtually has, very little going on up here because it is wedge-shaped. It's called the axe bow, and I did videos on these. It doesn't really have the gross tonnage or the capacity that you would expect in a hull this length, and that's because they're going for speed. They were originally built to get the crews out to the rigs fast. Time is money to the operators of these vessels, and so they put a lot of power in them. They're capable of going 25 to 30 knots. As is often the case, the Europeans and the Americans are building the same boats for the same purpose, to service the offshore oil industry. So these are the fast supply boats. This is an example. That's probably a 180 footer. I'm not sure, it could be 200. And these are the boats that are built down in Louisiana. And there are probably a couple of hundred of these that have been built, and maybe about 100 of the Dahmens, and I'm not sure of those numbers, but I think that's about right. And this is over the last 20 years. And one thing I've never done is gone down to Louisiana, where these are all made and where they operate from, into the Gulf of Mexico. They're also operated in Mexico, Brazil, Africa, and Southeast Asia. So these are really well-engineered, well-built, rugged offshore vessels. And so it was high time to go check it out, and that's what I did, and that's what I want to report on here. So if you go down to Louisiana, this is what it looks like. A lot of places are still beat up by the hurricane, and other places are looking pretty good. The maritime industry in Louisiana is enormous, with approximately 50,000 people employed in building, crewing, managing, and operating ships globally from Louisiana. Within the overall maritime sector, the fast crew supply vessels are built by specialized shipyards that tend to be family owned. These are modest sized facilities, and they have been building these for over 30 years, most of them. These vessels were originally built as crew only boats, and they were probably only up to 150 feet. Over time, the oil companies needed vessels that could also carry piping and mud and extra fuel and extra water to the offshore rigs that were now as much as 200 miles offshore. And so the vessels became larger, more robust. The new generation was now carrying 80 to 100 passengers. They were carrying heavy loads of drill pipes. They were carrying drill water, fuel for the rig, and on top of that, they all had to have dynamic positioning, DP2, and they were subject to increased class regulations and U.S. Coast Guard regulations. What is also a key factor is that all of these shipyards were competing head-on against each other to get these big contracts from the oil companies. So they were very competitive, very economical, and efficient builders. This is a 184-foot fast crew supply vessel built in 2012 by Breaux brothers. These boats have a beam of 30 to 36 feet usually. They've got that high load bearing, large open aft deck. So on a conversion, this gives you over 100 feet by up to 30 feet of buildable space for new accommodations and to house your toys, tenders, and still have plenty of room for a helipad. This is a no-nonsense bridge with great visibility. It's got all the DP controls and all of the state-of-the-art radios and controls that you would expect in a sophisticated commercial vessel. The aft-facing controls and helm station is vitally important, remembering that they back up to a rig and they have to have crane operations and crew getting on and off. The other thing I want to note is that when these vessels are laid up, all the manuals, all the handheld radios, every little bit of equipment that you need to go back to sea is still there, ready to be reactivated and put back to work. The interior finish is not bad at all. They've got strong AC. The engines are all the way aft in the hull, so they don't have vibration and noise from the engines. The exhaust and the intakes are also all the way aft, more than 100 feet away. This vessel has a crew cabin on the main deck. That might be for actually taking somebody off a vessel that needs care. It's got some facilities on board for showers, heads. It's got a small serving galley up there and a place for snacks. In a conversion, I could see this area being repurposed as a main salon with bigger windows looking forward, or it could even be an owner's suite. It's got
This
plenty of
vessel
room
was
for that.
built by Breaux brothers, and they are one of the most renowned builders of fast cruise supply vessels. Have been doing it for over 40 years.
This crew area can be easily converted over for yacht crew accommodations. I want to point out one of the great things about doing these conversions. Look, we're only dealing with the front 25% of this hull so far,
And we're going to keep all that because it's useful for our mission.
and now the rest of this space is available for us to build out for accommodations, for toys and tenders, for the helipad. Let's check it out. I'm used to inspecting steel hulls, and so the first impression I have is that the metal is not coated and there's no rust, and it looks new. On some of the vessels that I inspected, this midsection here was all tanks, and these were water tanks for the rigs or mud tanks, and they were so large that you could actually cut right into them and make other crew cabins, or you could make a gym or walk-in freezers and stores. So each boat is unique in the way that it has its equipment, tankage, and systems laid out.
But what they all have in common is that you'll see that the piping and all the electrical runs and the systems are completely accessible, very well labeled, easy to maintain, easy to operate.
This vessel is powered by 3516B Caterpillars that deliver 2,000 horsepower each. All these boats either have triples or quadruples, and they either go to 52-inch props or Hamilton jet drives.
My immediate thought was too much horsepower, too much fuel burn. This doesn't make any sense. But then I saw the charts of the actual fuel burns on these boats, and if you go 12 knots, you're only burning about 50 gallons an hour. And that's probably better than a Viking Sportfish.
That's all we have time for today, but keep your eye on this sector of the maritime industry because I believe we're going to see some really interesting conversions shaping up on these hulls.